Back in 1976, a mystery band arose to mainstream success from absolute obscurity. A mythos formed around their first album. Those vocals, those instrumentals. Could this be? Had the Beagles secretly reunited to make a new album? Had the dreams and wishes of fans around the world finally come true? Welcome to Rhythm and Booze, where mixology meets music. Today, we'll be making cocktails and talking about Klaatu, the band that wasn't the Beagles. So, we're going to start off with a glass just filling up with ice. Then we're going to fill this with a shot and a half of O'Casey's. This is just an Irish cream liqueur, so you could use any sort of cream liqueur really. That'll work just fine. Then we're going to put in half a shot of vanilla liqueur and half a shot of amaretto. And just combine these both. These are quite tasty together. And you pour that in the glass with all the cream liqueur. Then we're going to take a shot of coffee liqueur and pour that in as well. Then we're just going to take some actual coffee and just top the rest of the glass with that. And there you go. That's quite delicious. That's how you make an interplanetary coffee. So this is called an interplanetary coffee because of the main hit on this album, which some people might actually remember if you grew up back in the 70s. Calling Occupants of Interplanetary Craft really took off. Today I'm going to be talking about the music from this album pretty exclusively. I'm not going to be talking about the mythos just because I actually have so much to say about the mythos and so much to say about things relative to Klaatu in other capacities that I want to do a whole foods episode on them, a Rhythm and Foods episode on them, and cover them in more detail and more in full. Today I just want to talk about this album and the music on it pretty much alone. Calling Occupants, as I mentioned, is a fantastic song. It has this really cool concept at the beginning. It sounds like someone wandering through a forest, finding an album and record player, and putting it on, and then the music starts. I think that's a really unique and interesting concept. And I think the soundscape for the forest at the start just sounds beautiful.
In your mind, you have capacities, you know, to telepath messages through the vast unknown. Please close your eyes and concentrate.
I also like the second hit song on here, California Jam. I think it has a very Beach Boysy vibe at the start. And then it goes into a more sort of rocky tune. It sounds very cool.
California's on my mind. Surfing sun setting in the sun.
And I like it through and through. Anus of Uranus has Gacilius' most crude name on this album, but it has a very good sound. It actually has this sort of experimental funky rock sound the entire time that I really personally appreciate. And then Sub Rosascation is actually considered to be the other hit off this album. It's very good as well. It starts off rather slow.
Back in 1870.
And then gets into something more fantastic. And just has some really unique bits to it. There's a lot of psychedelia throughout the album. The songs are very psychedelic, especially calling Occupants on the first half here.
We are your friends.
That one is very, very interesting in its sounds. It's got super experimental noises in it. It again starts off really slow.
Please close your eyes and concentrate with every thought you think.
But then goes to an interesting place where the vocals totally transcend everything and the sound just changes.
Calling occupants of interplanetary most extraordinary craft. Calling occupants.
And it's a really, really great track. If you've never heard it, it's really long, but I definitely recommend if you're going to listen to one track off this album, listen to Calling Occupants of Interplanetary Craft. Now for one shot and one more cocktail that's kind of not a cream-based cocktail, so we're just doing a shot. It's going to be half black sambuca, which actually looks very much blue, and half Grand Marnier. This goes together and tastes quite delicious. The anise is complemented, I think, quite a bit by the orange liqueur. But now we're going to make a nice cocktail using similar flavors. So we're going to pour about 3/4 of the shot glass full, 2/3, 3/4 with the liqueur, and again 3/4 with the Grand Marnier. And just pour these into a coffee cup or teacup here. Pour again. And top of coffee again. This one's coffee based, but it's not creamy. Sambuca has a very distinct flavor, and paired with the black/blue color, it really does have an interplanetary quality to it. It really seems out of this world. The combination of it with coffee and orange was unique and experimental, to be sure, much like the album. In fact, I'd consider these the most experimental drinks from today's episode, and I'd compare either of them to the closing track on this album, which sounds absolutely phenomenal. It's called Little Neutrino, a name that I'd lend to either the shot or the drink. It is the longest track on this album, but it has an insanely unique sound. The ending is unmatched. Other highlights off this B-side are True Life Hero, which has a great polished garage rock feel to it. And Sir Bodsworth Rugglesby III. That is, wow, that is hard to say. But it's the namesake for this final drink, so I better learn how to say Sir Bodsworth Rugglesby fast. Bodsworth Rugglesby. So this drink is again not cream-based, but it's quite delicious and sweet. The cream-based one was by far the sweetest, but this one was up there too. So you mostly fill a glass of ice and cola, then you just pour in a shot of vanilla liqueur. The vanilla liqueur is quite delicious. And then we mix half a shot here of rum and Disinaro, or however the hell it's pronounced, amaretto. Then you pour that combined shot into there as well, mix it all together, cheers, and down it. It's quite delicious. And that's all I have for you today. That's the last drink. 4 drinks, I think that's pretty good for an 8-track album. So let's talk a little bit about this last song. Again, this one's reminiscent to me of Paul McCartney, just in the sense of how it sounds sort of jovial and happy and sort of childish. Nursery rhymish in nature. It has that old-fashioned style in the instrumentals. It reminds me quite a bit of a song like When I'm 64.
When I get older, losing my head.
Which has this it's just a certain vibe that Paul McCartney does that John Lennon wasn't too fond of, but I think is quite nice, and I think it's very reminiscent on this song, and you can hear it a lot.
Well, he was quite a sporting sort. Behind his cup of tea he'd snore, and I'll wager on the line £10,000 and fine.
Even though, again, this was not the Beatles, I can see where certain people were coming from. Anyways, that's all I've got for you today. That's the last drink, that's the last big I have to talk about for this album. Make sure to keep checking in, keep tuning in, because eventually I'm going to do a recipe episode on this and talk more in depth about the whole album and the whole mythos surrounding it, the whole legend surrounding Klaatu, and I'll even talk a bit about their other albums, which I own. But for now, I'm just going to end this here and ask you, if you will, to check out my New Year's video, because I think it was my best video so far. I talked about the Forrest Gump soundtrack in it, and I make an entire New Year's Eve meal, and it's pretty delicious. So make sure you check that out, make sure you leave a like here, make sure you subscribe, and thank you for checking out Rhythm and Booze. This is the second episode of this series. I do my main series, Rhythm and Foods, as often as I can upload between having school and a job. So, thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.